Okay, good evening, dear hearts, and welcome to another episode of the Inner Dance Show. And supporting us this evening in a return to sacred flow is Tom Woodfin. And I'm very excited to have Tom on the show because it's a real pleasure to get to spend some time chatting with him and about the amazing work that he does. But Tom is a former mixed martial artist, now embodiment coach, and he's a sound and breathwork inner dance facilitator and global trainer. He's also trained in EFT, NLP, and he's a hypnotherapy practitioner. And I'm sure that the list of all of your amazing trainings and what you offer the world could be as long as, I don't know, my arm. But Tom, it's just phenomenal to have you here as a guest on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, I know that you've had your own podcast show in the past, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I haven't released an episode for a while, but I just started making videos again recently, doing tapping videos, really.
Ah,
And I
amazing.
thought, I wanted to get like a bit of a push out there, and I see like a lot of people carrying a lot of stuff. And so, I mean, I guess with all of this work that we do, it's like, it just feels like it's time. And maybe I feel more ready now than I had in the past as well to start speaking to that a little bit. So yeah, it's going well.
Brilliant. Oh, I'm pleased to hear that the time feels right again for you. But
Mm.
anyway, Tom, I've only spoken to you a couple of times through sort of the context of Inner Dance, and I'm just really curious about you and the journey to where you are now in your practice. And I'm wondering if maybe you could just talk us through a little bit about what brings you to what you're doing and what you offer the world.
Okay. Well, I think inner dance is a really kind of an interesting phenomenon for me because I was always quite interested in music. When I was in high school, I did a bit of DJing myself and was into vinyl and, funnily enough, like trance and house music, funky house and euphoria, that kind of trance. And I really felt like there was something in that for me that just gave me a release or an escape, or just it was a bit self transcendent.
Mm.
Um, then I moved out to the Philippines for a while. I think when I was 20, me and my friend went out there. We decided we wanted to do something a bit different. Went out there to start a business and um, spent a lot of time having a lot of adventures and doing weird and wild stuff. And yeah, I well, we then eventually moved to. I had my career in mixed martial arts. Then we eventually moved to Thailand, the north of Thailand in Chiang Mai, which is, and we'd started to get, as I was going down like the martial arts channel, I'd started to get more into personal development stuff, more NLP and EFT and stuff like that. Initially for sports performance, and then ended up in Chiang Mai in Thailand and was going more down the personal development route and trying out more different disciplines. So I was definitely seeking and searching for something. And I had this breathwork experience in Thailand that really is one of those experiences that really altered my perception of reality. Like it really, and I didn't have a lot of reference points for it because I was into personal development stuff, but it wasn't like I really knew. I suppose the depth of what I was about to get into,
Mm.
and I wasn't really into like the spiritual side of things so much. But then this breathwork experience gave me something that really changed my perspective, and that was when my life started to unravel a bit again, and change direction. I came back to the UK for a while, and I was still. My plan at this point was to go off to was to win a few fights back in the UK and then go off to Chile to. I don't know what I was going to do there, but have an adventure. I think that was just the idea. And then my friend who I'd met in the Philippines said, "Why don't you go and help my friend build mud houses? He has an eco village." And while I was in Thailand, I'd been getting into eco construction a little bit as well, and there was a very intuitive yes type feeling to that. And I kind of started to meditate, and I'd started mixing music to meditate too. And I found myself having these lucid dream type states. When I got to the Philippines, ready to build mud houses, but that really wasn't what it was about in essence. And there I met Pi, and Pi said, "Well, if you want to stay here, we want you to do the facilitator training." And I wasn't really that keen at first. I was a bit resistant and hesitant. But as soon as I started doing it, there was a really strong resonance. Like I really found the theory side really, this spoke to me in a really deep way, and I found that I was going to bed and having these very vivid dreams with lots of colors and shapes that just felt really, really familiar.
Mm.
Even though I couldn't really explain them on a logical level, there was just something very deeply resonant about what was happening there that really brought something to life in me, I think. And so I stayed there for a while and had more kind of life unravelings and messiness. And so I was just trying to really deconstruct the layers, but not really consciously and not really knowing what I was doing. And after about 6 months of being there, I went to do some workshops in some different places like Malaysia and Singapore and Taiwan. And I visited Taiwan for a while before and really liked it, and decided I haven't had enough of the jungle and went to Taiwan to live in the city after that. And ran some workshops there, but then I could feel I was a bit cut off from the. I started to like become more egoic with it, I think, and it started to become more about me and how brilliant I thought I might be, and maybe there was just some like quite I think a bit of unresolved stuff.
Mhm.
Part of the reason, and part of the reason that I got into martial arts, not the only reason, but I think I really liked the attention from it as well. And this was maybe another vehicle that I could get that need met. So yeah, that was great to that part of me. But then it all started to kind of fall apart. And yeah, I don't know how much depth you want me to go into this, because there's still quite a few more parts to this story. But yeah, from there I ended up kind of going on again and off again with innerdance and having a bit of a push-pull relationship with it, but it just kept showing up at these really pivotal times. And whenever it showed up, life took on a very different kind of texture. It started to become a lot more kind of magical in the ways of things would happen synchronistically, and there was just a sense of alignment and an aliveness. And then that would kind of, I would wrestle with that a little bit and struggle with it, and um, it would fade, and I would want to find the ground again, and then I would come back, and it was like, yeah, I was trying to figure out how to fit this thing into my life,
Mhm.
and not wanting to be completely consumed by it, and but it almost felt like I needed to expand my own ability to hold these what felt like kind of different worlds that I was walking in, because it's quite it's quite a strong departure from the world of mixed martial arts and what I originally went out to the Philippines to do, which was loosely based around kind of financial trading and things like well, we had a bar for a little while, and just kind of just regular, not that regular, but kind of regular stuff,
Yeah.
regular worldly activities. And then dance world, and trying to put all this stuff together, it didn't necessarily come so naturally to me. But now it feels like there's a really good body of literature backing up these experiences and explanations and ways to talk about it that feel less what's the word, less kind of amorphous, and less uh, it's going to be a little bit more accessible to some people and not be like labeled as a like a hippie fringe spiritual thing, which I think from the background I came from, that was really a lot of people would have that kind of a judgment. So
Mhm.
I was always trying to kind of find the bridge, because I was aware there was something very valuable in the process of inner dance, and I actually really liked the, the creative expression of it, and some of the language around it, and it was very, very alive. But then to bridge that back with this old version of me that just, was brought up in a mining town in North Yorkshire, that kind of had a one size fits all life path type thing, and that trying to reconcile those two things is,
Yeah.
I guess, still I'm somewhere in the middle of all that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I've ended up here.
Wow. Wow. What a phenomenal journey so far, and can
Yeah,
really understand why there would be that tension, that push and pull between a
yeah,
story that you went traveling with about who you are and what you were intending to do, and then
mm,
discovering something that was deeply familiar to you, and
mm,
finding your own way to synthesize and integrate this
yeah,
emerging knowing and identity.
yeah. It it's almost like you have to kind of, I guess, expand your capacity to hold these
Mm,
different identities and be able to speak across worlds in
yes.
different languages. And that's, and I really do think, I've come to almost like recognize this rather than trying to force myself to believe it, but it just seems naturally, I suppose, relevant or real that your every part of your history and background has some kind of relevance, like, and
Yeah.
coming from a place that is, you know notoriously no nonsense kind of place, and um, not really open to a lot of stuff that could be really valuable. It's like that is quite a, a gap to bridge, but I think it's relevant to be able to bridge it. I think
Hmm.
there's, the bigger the gap to bridge, the more, I suppose, like the bigger the work it is to bridge, but maybe the more meaningful it feels if once you're actually able to speak across that. And some of that's really the times where I felt really good, like really, um, maybe I would say imbued with a real sense of purpose, is when I've delivered some of these workshops under the guise of breath work, made popular by Wim Hof and other people who are a bit more palatable for slightly more kind of linear, logical audiences. So when I've been able to do breathwork sessions with these sound journeys in like the jiu-jitsu club, and people are really having these emotional reactions, and just they really, they're feeling something there that is really real for them. And I think that is kind of like what feels like the gift of my first breathwork experience, which was just before inner dance. But that first breathwork experience, and with music that,
Hmm.
especially now, the way the music's being built out and explored and experimented with, and all of the literature about the different brain waves and things like that, and just merging all of this stuff together as a kind of an art form, really feels like
Yeah.
I guess, like a really um, relevant creative expression for me. Just I really enjoy doing it. It really feels like a lot of love.
Absolutely. It sounds so humbling to be able to offer it, like you say, somewhere maybe in your local centre, and you're able to offer it in a way, like you say, that bridges worlds and bridges languages. And I don't know,
Mm.
it sounds like your whole life you've been deepening practice to be able to bring them all together. You've all your
Yeah,
final collections as a teenager, and your understanding music transcends, and through your martial arts. I mean, I don't know very much about martial art, but I trust that there's something about flow and alignment that's really important to it.
oh god, yeah. Um, yeah, that it's really the martial arts thing. I'm so glad that I did it. Like, I could see that I didn't do it because I was happy and well adjusted and felt good about myself. It was more like I needed to prove something. But through that, there's so much that I think it teaches you about, well, loads of stuff, I guess, kind of discipline and drive and motivation, and how to, I think, relax in the deepest, or at least I say the deepest, but the world's pretty deep, so it's not really the deepest, but it's quite intense. The feeling of stepping into the ring, and like learning to relax into those situations, is not something that I was born with. I don't think it wasn't something that I felt innately capable of doing. It was just something that I practiced. I actually grew up and I felt a lot more, maybe, I think I was just anxious a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was angry as well. I had, some anger stuff going on, and a bit more passive. And I think that martial arts journey helped to bring up stuff and channel stuff, and like channel aggression properly, and help me find a place in my psyche for that kind of thing, and to be able to manage it well, rather than suppress it, or like
Yes.
internalize it or externalize it, or whatever. I think it's really been so valuable, and also the flow state thing as well. We have this expression in martial arts that's like, this is like in mixed martial arts, but probably quite a few others, that you don't, when you're in a competition, you don't necessarily rise to the level of your ability, but you fall back to the level of your training. And so it's all of your
Mm.
repetitions and what's just become muscle memory. But oddly enough, I've actually found in some cases, like, the odd moment, the exact opposite of that to be true, where I've done things in matches that I've never trained before. I didn't know was a move, and it wasn't something that I had even thought of, but just instinctively, by understanding, I guess, the mechanics of um, what you're doing and repeating these trainings day after day. It's like I've done moves in competitions that have been kind of alien to me, where I've done them and thought, wow, what the hell was that? And oh,
Yeah.
I just did that. That's so, like, curious, just having a little moment with yourself to
Yeah.
recognize that something's happened that is
Yes.
just not what you would have expected.
Yeah. To go beyond, and I guess what
Yeah,
I'm also, and how I might like translate it, is something about how martial arts could support a rite of passage. Like you say, there was a
yeah,
way to
yeah.
hone and really channel all of this energy and emotion that you were experiencing.
I think so. Yeah, I think the physicality of it, and to feel, I suppose, more secure in the body, that
Hmm.
knowing that you can, like, what you can handle and how to kind of moderate and temper different levels of that kind of energy has just been really valuable.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's great foundations for your work as an embodiment coach. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that. But also, I'm really curious about your breath work. I'm someone who had quite challenging childhood asthma, and I know that the grief can live in the lungs. And so for me,
Mm.
although breath is a resource, it's not one that I remember very often, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. So I'd love to hear more about how you work with it and support people to come into conscious contact with it.
Yeah, um, yeah. Well, the breath work. It's interesting you say that, because that's something that's also been very relevant to me. Is I think grief, and like wherever it's come from, or like it's just been present. Like, I think there has been, in some senses, a drive or a motivation from me to try to get away from a certain kind of sadness. It always feels like it's there, and I've been trying to, whatever it is that I've been doing has been to try to leave that behind, you know. Um, and yeah, I think the lungs, I had lung stuff, bronchial stuff when I was growing up, and the lungs have always been, sounds obvious, they've always been a thing for me. As in, I've always been
Hmm.
breathing, but I've always been, I guess, kind of conscious and aware of that. And particularly after the breathwork session, that shifted a lot of my perceptions and perspectives. I felt like the journey with understanding the breath and the different ways that you can use it to actually connect and bridge between the conscious and the unconscious mind, and connect to certain emotions, and how you can adapt and manage your state by the different ways you breathe as well, whether you're upregulating or downregulating. But like primarily just to recognize that every emotional state has a kind of a corresponding breathwork pattern, and that interplay between, it's like the thing that you can consciously control, the breath, that has an effect on your autonomic nervous system, how you feel. And yeah, that's always, well, I say always, but since I became aware of it more, like, has been really fascinating to me. And funnily enough, when after the breathwork session, I remember making these playlists and then putting breath over the top and this kind of rising falling thing, because there's something about trance and conscious trance music and breathing rhythm, and maybe different tones and textures of music as well, that yeah, bring people into this trance like state. And that, for me, that was just where I wanted to go. Like, I felt naturally very drawn to that. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I think that's why people go out clubbing and things like that, to move, to dance, to shake, to let go, to go into almost into a kind of a trance state. But with the breath, like, that was, you could really deepen that and really kind of get out of your mind, out really much into the body and shift your perceptions. And when I started doing more kind of stronger breath work, say like Wim Hof and things like that, I started to feel very clear in my thinking, even if it wasn't, even if it didn't last all day. There was definitely a lot more moments of clarity, of like, oh, I can feel my energy level rising here. Whatever's going on here feels really good. And my creativity was being boosted by that as well, which was really, really powerful to notice. But then also, if I experienced things like depression, there would be a way to breathe where I would actually restrict my breathing and go, you typically go, if you're depressed, you're not breathing very deeply, but to just whatever the way that you're breathing in the moment that you are, is to make it conscious and kind of exaggerate it a little bit. I find that's usually the best way in to connect with whatever it is that you're feeling in the body. So in the example of depression, I would kind of breathe even more shallow and wait till my body wanted to just naturally inhale by itself, wait till it wanted to make this kind of this deeper inhale, and then I would suppress it again and go very, very shallow. And I found that was a really good way to start to move these feelings along and come out of that survival stress.
Yeah. So what a beautiful way to support yourself, to sort of go towards the restriction or the contraction, and to allow the body to reset itself, isn't it?
Yeah, that was it really, because I think for a lot of my younger life, it was almost like the opposite. And I think that's quite a common cultural idea, maybe, that we need to fix the thing before we can connect with it, whereas actually connecting with it first allows that, the transformative energy that it transforms by itself then.
Yes.
It's like, I think they talk about it in NVC, where it's like empathy before education. But I would always think of that as like connection before correction. And because the connection is really essential first, and it's not always possible, if the child's kind of running into the road, you want to grab it by the arm and pull it back and then connect with it to make sure that it can regulate. But where possible, connection before correction, I think, is better, because it's that connection that allows the transformation. This is very inner dancey, right? It's like we just do the inner dance, and we start to connect with what's there and just let stuff come through and let it transform itself, rather than having
Mhm.
some kind of directive in mind, like I want it to be this, therefore I'm gonna kind of force it to be here. um yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And sort of, I'm, thinking, I'm connecting with sort of nonviolent communication and how that. So I come from a humanistic sort of therapy background, and I know how much NVC really inspired Carl Rogers and vice versa, and his
Yeah,
understanding of that paradox that we need to accept ourselves exactly as we are, and then change is
yeah,
possible. Yeah. So that, like you say, it's connection before correction. That makes total sense. But like you say, that culturally we've been encouraged to avoid and to turn away instead of turning towards that which
right.
we uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that it just creates so many fractures, like whether it's on a macro level culturally, where you kind of divide, or whether you just, I think that is a reflection of how people treat themselves as well. Here's all
Yeah.
these parts that are kind of unacceptable or not okay, and they need to be banished to, getting into kind of IFS and parts work territory here. But it's like that. I think that it really is the fractures of the psyche there, where this is really uncomfortable. I don't like to feel this thing, so I'm going to dissociate from it, and
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
I'll just hope that I'll keep pushing, and it takes up so much energy to keep that separated. But at the same token, it's also, I think, part of my journey has been to recognize that also as the dissociation mechanism as a
Mhm.
very necessary and benevolent force. Ultimately, it needs to cut yourself off from something that's too overwhelming and painful is quite important, I think, in the moment, and then just gradually let it back in
Yeah.
where you can. But um, yeah, with a focus on connection for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's lovely to hear you name that that mechanism, that companion of ours that is benevolent. What a beautiful way to
Yeah,
describe that most ancient of nervous system responses.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We kind of demonize a lot of what goes on in the body, and I guess it's just because we don't feel safe, or maybe it hurts or it's painful, and then that pain kind of dictates the quality of the thinking that arises from those sensations and those feelings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
really do think that you're on your own side. It's just you're going about it maybe in different ways or different parts of your body, and it's necessary to spend a bit of time with yourself, just working that out. Working out where the things need to be connected, where things need to be brought
Hmm.
back in, where love needs to be
Yes.
brought, and yeah,
Yeah. So really, it's learning
essentially.
how to cooperate with ourselves, isn't it?
Sorry, say again.
Sorry, I cut off there. I'm saying it's remembering how to cooperate with ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's the cooperation, collaboration, power with, instead of. I really think this kind of the whole domination culture thing is like it starts. It's a bit cliche, but it's like it starts within. If you're trying to dominate different parts of yourself and isolate and things like that, um, over the long term, that's going to diffuse outwards and to bring everything in. It's like easier said than done. Not by preaching from above here. I still have plenty of work to do, but I kind of recognize the idea as being something fundamentally. It feels very resonant to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Self-acceptance.
beautiful. Tom, I could speak to you for hours about many, many things, and I'm aware of time, and I'm also aware that you've got a treat for us. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering if maybe I'm going to let Andy know that we're going to turn the audio file on in a second, but I'm wondering if you could just explain to us what we're going to be listening to, and yeah.
sure. Yeah, so this is a kind of a mini breathwork session, and I have used, it's more musical, so it's maybe more in the style of kind of an older innerdance playlist. The newer ones are more sound based and a bit more, what would you say, kind of experimental. But this is a breathwork session that uses a couple of songs, and it just rides a wave. So the first breath into it is inhale through the nose into the belly, and then exhale through the mouth, like a nice kind of coherent thing. I'm going to try to breathe in through my nose, but I have had a blocked nose today, so it might sound a bit weird. I'll give it a try anyway. But it's like inhale through the nose, and then exhale through the mouth with like an open mouth with a kind of a ha sound, but you're not really engaging the vocal cords. Although you can. I like to give people a bit of freedom to experiment and play around with a breath that feels right for them. So that's the first breath. You will hear it on the track, like when to breathe and when to let it go. And I obviously can instruct and coach as well. And then that moves into a second round of breath work, which is Wim Hof breathing. Wim Hof is much more stimulating. It's much more like sympathetic activating. So and I would definitely advise people to not do this if they're holding anything precious or driving anything dangerous, because it can get a little bit trippy and a little bit spacey. But Wim Hof breath is basically a big full lung inhale in and a kind of a gasping inhale and then a slow tapered exhale out. And I extend the exhale on pretty much all of the breaths these days, because an extended exhale is a slower heart rate. It helps to slow the heart rate down. So this big gasping inhale in is quite activating and adrenalizing, and then if you extend the exhale, it slows the heart rate down. So you kind of get into that sense of I'm experiencing higher levels of adrenaline whilst having a lower heart rate. So I'm kind of building capacity for stress, which I think Wim Hof breath is really good for. So yeah, that sounds like this with a full lung would be. So you really bring in as much as possible and then slow down and taper the exhale. Then at the end of the round, you would hold the breath on the exhale for as long as you can. And then whenever you feel ready, you would take an inhale and then hold the breath on a full lung. And then you would relax and let go. But you'll hear all this on the track, and I can coach as well.
Brilliant. So we'll play the track and people just follow the breath that they're hearing, and they start with the inhale through the nose, out through the mouth, and then the practice that you just described, the more Wim Hof method.
Yeah, that's the one. And then at the end, there's like a 5 minutes of just, people often find it good to do breath work and then meditate. So there's just like a 5-minute musical sound meditation at the end.
Wonderful. Well, I'm just going to get comfortable. So whoever's listening, if you want to join in to connect in this way with yourself, with your breath, with us as a tribe, breathing as one, just get yourself comfortable. Andy is primed, hopefully, and ready to go to press play on our behalf. Andy, are you there? Hopefully he's getting that set up for us.
Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, so I'll do a little bit of speaking over the track as well. People want to find themselves in a comfortable position, relax the muscles of the face, pay attention to the breath. Notice what it feels like to be in the body. Get ready for the first round of breathing. It's in through the nose, out through the mouth, down into the belly. Inhale. Let go all the way. Exhale. Ready for the second round of breathing. Good breath breathing. Exhale. Inhale. Do not feel breathing, relaxing the body completely. Big full on inhale. Inhale. Exhale all the way. Exhale, 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 and hold the breath. Hold the breath. Hold the breath. Inhale, hold. Exhale, go. Relax. There we are.
Wow. Wow. I'm just taking a moment just to integrate, inviting everyone who's listening to just take some moments to feel how they're feeling, to harvest and acknowledge their experience. Can certainly speak for quite an immediate, quite a swift shift in consciousness. I could feel an internal blending, a real blending of states, which I was delighted by and surprised by. Yeah, the immediacy of that. And it was a very, actually, quite very gentle experience for me there.
Mm.
Yeah, gentle in the sense that the blending that I'm trying to describe felt very natural. Like body knew exactly what was going on, even though I've never done anything like that before. It was like a long lost language.
That's a lovely way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious how it is for you to, what it feels like for you to share and to put together a soundscape that opens these doors of the lungs and of the body mind.
Yeah. I think it just feels very natural, to be honest.
Mm.
you know, this, like, the art in the sound. Obviously, I'm mixing and blending other people's music, so I'm kind of acting more as a DJ in that regard. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always just felt and um, felt sound quite
Yeah.
deeply, and I can, when I'm making a playlist, I'm really in a flow. It's like one of those things where I can do it and I'll keep doing it for hours and hours, and then I'll lose track of time, so it's not like a lot of I won't say it's effort particularly. I obviously
Mm-hmm.
spend energy to do it, but I just I get quite excited by them, and I'm trying to create something that resonates for me, and that was how I started doing it originally. Was I wanted to put together these dance playlists, when we were working through the 12 stages and the kind of the archetypal journeys, the hero's journey that were, um, so I could self-facilitate. So, and I would lie down and I would use the breath to do that, so I wouldn't just be up in my head thinking about it all the time. And I found the breath was a really good doorway to let go of that monkey mind a little bit and just start to like connect into what the sound was and how it felt in the body and what it brought up and all of that stuff, really. So yeah, it really feels great to share it, because there's a part of me that sometimes still thinks like this is kind of unusual and weird, to put sound together in that way, and
Mm-hmm.
are other people going to get that? And then on top of that, I've got me breathing on it, which is, it could almost be seen as a little bit weird and creepy, for
Mm.
some people, but for me, it feels very natural.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I
it's,
love the fact that it's your breath. I can really feel you and your presence. And for me, that's very nurturing and a beautiful container that you're breathing life into these soundscapes. And I trust that whoever's listening in whatever capacity, in whatever context, is also feeling you too.
mm,
I think
yeah,
that's a beautiful way to blend these different languages, these different sounds together. So it's
no,
nice
it's
that
true.
you're not relying on someone else's breath.
Yeah, right. Straight from the source. Um,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, but it's a lovely way to think about it. These blending different languages. I never really thought about it like that. Like blending the language, because breath really does feel like a language. It speaks to emotion. It kind of bridges worlds. It is. I've learned it in that way, like the language of breath and how it represents different emotions and states and things like that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then to bridge that with sound, I never really thought of that, but it seems kind of obvious now you say it, that sound is obviously, and music is a language as well. Um,
yeah,
just a bit like kind of synesthesia or something.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I know when I work with clients, and breath is a resource that they are
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from for their own reasons, and or the voice, and just that
Yeah,
reminder that breath is the sound of our soul, and that we don't need to make, so we don't need to sing to let
yeah,
that sound be known, to speak that language, just through our breath and listening to our own breath. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I think I'm going to have to go and play around with that myself for some future soundscapes. But
Yeah.
we don't have very long left, Tom, and I would like to open up in the last minute or two, just in case any of our listeners would like to ask a question or maybe
Mm,
share something of their experience, and obviously only if that feels right for them. But it
yeah.
feels like a rather sharp turn towards the last few minutes. But you know, I'd love to know if you have any words of wisdom that you've received along the way that resonate for you, and that you might like to share to our listeners that might also resonate with them.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah, there might be something you've read or heard or.
God.
something that's yours.
You know what? I'll, I can feel a part of my brain thinking I've got to say the most profound thing that I've ever said right now, and
No pressure.
it's, it's like it's panicking trying to come up with something that's just really going to mark the ages. I don't know. I mean, I think what I find with this kind of work is it always brings you back to yourself, and I think I've started to see things in terms of sound, resonance and sound, and see the world more through
Mm.
that lens, and it's really helpful. Like it's really helpful. I remember doing an experiment once where I was walking through London, but I was using my eyes obviously to see where I could step, but I was listening to it rather than seeing it. And I just find the world makes a lot more sense when you listen to it. It's
Yes.
easy to get confused with kind of images and visions, but like listening to it on the level of sound, I don't know, there's
Mm.
something that's very different about that experience. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's just where things have started to really kind of make
Be-
sense to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. That and it brings an intimacy to be
Yeah,
as you're going for a walk to really tune into the sounds
yeah,
rather than through the eyes. Yeah. Well, I think that is profound, and I think that could open dimensions up to many people if they give that a go.
yeah.
I also know that you like to read, and I love to read, and I'm always collecting book suggestions to add to my
Mm.
ever increasing 20 piles of books that surround my bed. But I'm curious, are you any a book you could recommend to us?
Oh, book I could recommend.
Yeah.
There's so many that have
I
touched me in so many ways.
I'm, all these easy questions I leave to the end.
Yeah, yeah, right. Um, the one that springs to mind that I thought was a really powerful journey was Shantaran. I don't know if you've read that one.
I
It's
haven't.
um, Gregory somebody. I want to say David Wallace, but that could be wrong. But it's like a really long journey of this guy who escaped from prison in New Zealand and then went to live in Mumbai and ended up joining like the underworld. And it's really long, but it's kind of like a spiritual journey. It's such a I just found myself really gripped by that book. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's the one that springs to mind. But there's just so many, and I guess they come at you at different times in your life. I'm always just
Yes.
trying to pay attention to where the resonant feel is like, oh, this book, and then I'll kind of get
Yes.
into it a little bit. If it comes more from the head, I'm like thinking about it. It's not as deep as if I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling it or drawn to it, or somebody's given it to me, or it's been suggested a couple of places. It's like I'm paying attention to those signs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I'm sure it's true for lots of people. I've got lots of future books. Like, I know there's resonance to them, but it's not now. But it
Mm.
needs to be in my energetic field.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
had some books on my bookshelf for years, and I'm only just reading them now, and they were just waiting for me.
Yeah. 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 That's true. I'm more of a kind of a non-linear reader, so I have like
Yeah,
50 books,
yeah.
100 books that are a little bit finished, and I'll just pick them up at random, like a kind of a roulette, but thread things between them. I'm not sure how functional that is, but it seems to work for me. So,
Well, if it works for you, I've taken to setting my alarm an hour early, so I do 10 minutes with the Ahilan's Be Light app, and then
mm,
then I write in my dream journal, and then I spend the rest of the hour reading a chapter from 5 books, so that
mm,
I'm just feel like I'm vibrating with all these different kinds of wisdom before I
yeah,
get out of bed. For me, I'm finding it to be a really beautiful way to start my day, and I'm getting through books. Yeah.
yeah,
But
nice.
yeah, it's swift rate, which is cool. Anyway, so I do recommend that for giving that a go. Anyway,
Yeah,
for those who want to find out more about the work that you're doing, Tom, or to maybe see a video or to even attend
mm.
one of your many offerings, where can they find you on in social media, or do you have a website? Or...
Yes. So the website is perceptionarchitecture.com.
Okay. And I will
Not,
link that. Yeah.
yeah, not a site about architecture, as some people sometimes ask me, but maybe in some future it might be, but yeah, it's really more about the coaching and the sound
Yes.
journeys. I have a YouTube channel that's linked to that. That will give you like the portal to the links, because there's YouTube, there's Mixcloud. If you want to do any of these mixes, I put them out there on Mixcloud for free, so you can access them.
Brilliant.
And then
So
Instagram as well.
wonderful. So I totally recommend that people go down those rabbit holes into those links and lie down and experience these phenomenal soundscapes and working with the breath. And wow, Tom, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a quick hour. I wish we had longer. But is it okay if I just check if anybody would like to say something or ask a question? Just if anybody would like to, you can unmute
Hi,
yourself.
Caroline.
Hey,
It's
Andy.
Andy here. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Andy.
Absolutely fantastically, amazingly interesting show that you've done. I have got one big question for you, Tom. Have you ever experienced a conscious out-of-body sensation whilst doing your breath work to trance music?
I've experienced, whilst doing my breathwork to trance music, I don't think I've had that with that specific combination of breathing and music. But I've definitely had what could only really be described as like out of body experiences with breathwork. And with the journeys as well, like the sound journeys, it's not been specifically trance, but with the other types of music, because they ride these different waves, and yeah, you can really go to some very deep and profound places with them. But yeah, for sure, with breathwork and music in general, I've had some quite extraordinary experiences.
Excellent. Yeah, I can relate to that because for 15 years, I was a light jock in nightclubs across the north of England.
Wow.
And predominantly, I would work sort of the main room, which would mainly be party music in the beginning, a bit of R&B later on, but then obviously as the night unfolded, the trance music and the dance music and the techno would kick in. And I've experienced real out of body moments. I've literally I can see myself doing the light work because that was my job, doing the lighting to the music. So obviously when the dance music and the techno and the trance music would kick in, that would be the only period where I would extend or expand my consciousness out of my body and watch myself doing it with the keyboard, and amazing experience. But it wouldn't last very long because then the DJ would change the track, something else would kick in and it would snap me back straight away, and I'll carry on and I'm back in my body and I'm away and I'm doing my thing. So yeah, I'm totally there with you on that one, Tom.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. Yeah,
I know. Lucky you. It sounds like a job, but
Best job in the world. They've got paid to party.
yeah. But again, so there's something about the combination of sound and light, that supports such a spiritual transcendent experience where you're able to really look back upon yourself in those moments doing your thing.
Yeah, sound, light, and breath, the
Yeah.
trifecta.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're onto something here. I think maybe we need to all get together. Like, we've got cosmic DJs, we've got the light guy. Andy, you're sorted for that. We should come up with some phenomenal, I don't know, transcendent experience for the north of England.
I'm up for that. I always used to go in with the mindset of that I would give a stadium experience to a 2,000 capacity room, with my lights and my show and everything else that would accompany the DJ's music. So and it was a very symbiotic relationship where I had to follow the lead of the DJ to be able to select the right kind of lighting
Yes.
to match whatever it was that he was playing. And obviously, dance music has a lot more focus. When YMCA comes on, it's pretty straightforward. But when you've got Tiesto coming on, or when you've got Operation Blade coming on, you have to focus for your timing and everything. And it's just amazing experience. Just it's phenomenal. Very euphoric.
It sounds very intuitive as well, Andy.
It was, yeah, very, very much so.
Oh,
the next breathwork mix is a 90s euphoria trance mix. I've been thinking about that for a long time.
Yep, do it. Get Operation Blade in there somewhere if you can, or Red. Lots of mixes out there.
Yeah.
I'm curious if anyone else wants to come in, or if that feels like we're coming to the end of the show. But, also there's Tom's website, and we'll put that back up on the thread. And yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to make contact with him if you're wanting to work with him. But Tom, thank you so very much for a phenomenal hour. And it's just really beautiful to chat with you and to hear more about you and how you are in service. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's half as much as I have in this last hour.
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been such a lovely conversation. Thanks for giving me the chance to do it.
No, not at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch the recording off, and then we can just say goodbye unofficially. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Well, dear hearts, we're coming to the end of yet another life-changing show, and with thanks to Tom Woodfin. So looking forward to next week's chat with Katie Holland, another inner dance elder and awakened belly dance creator. So much love to you all, and have a great week. Thank you.